Today on the Follow Your Spark podcast, we are talking all about seasons and cycles of growth, particularly in your own life in relation to your goals and dreams. So if you've ever struggled to identify what you actually want, if someone was asking you, what are your goals? What are your dreams? Or you're somewhere along the journey and you're trying to make sense of it all, this conversation is going to help you understand the phases that we go through, the elemental phases that we go through. And when I say elemental, I'm going to bring a feng shui lens to this conversation today and really share how we go through phases in our own lives the same way nature goes through seasons and cycles and phases to help you make sense of where you are currently at and potentially be able to give yourself more grace, more compassion, more love for wherever you fall in your season and cycle of growth. If you're new to me, I'm Gina Casbaro, and this is called the Follow Your Spark podcast because that's what it's all about, helping you tune into what is the spark on your heart that you desire and what can help you pursue and create your most authentic, aligned life. So if you're new here, welcome, and if you've been here since the beginning, welcome back. All right, so what phase of growth are you in right now? The first element I want to talk about is metal. And I'm calling this season the release. So what I have seen so many times is that before actually understanding and knowing what it is that you want in life, oftentimes we experience things that we don't want. And we have to go through the tension of realizing, okay, it's not this. So metal, the element metal in feng shui is all about pruning. It's about decluttering. It's about releasing, letting go. It's about evaluating and really sifting through what's there to see what you want to keep and what it's time to release. So in life, this can look like, I have many clients who come to me who realize they've worked in a career for 10 or 20 years and they don't want to do that anymore. That's not actually what they're passionate about. Or they're going through a divorce or a big change in relationships. And they're realizing that how they've been taught to live life or what they thought they should have wanted in life is not what they actually want. So this phase is all about having the courage to identify that and let go. One thing that I've also seen happen in this phase is a lot of judgment for the past of, oh, I never should have gotten into this relationship in the first place, or why did I spend so long in this career only to find out that this is not for me? And one of the biggest things I work on with my clients is owning your becoming, owning your journey, looking back on your past and your history and seeing, what did that experience teach me? How did I grow in that moment? How am I stronger in that moment? What did I learn? And being able to offer yourself love instead of judgment for your journey. I tell myself and I tell clients oftentimes, be careful not to wish away your challenges because so often in those challenging moments, that's where we grow and evolve. There's all kinds of nature references about this, like the sand in the oyster that creates the pearl or diamonds that need pressure, all these things. Like we grow with tension, we grow with challenges. So being able to offer yourself love for whatever it is that you've experienced in your life and know that in any given moment, you have the opportunity to choose again. You have the opportunity to look at your life right now and say, okay, what is it time to let go of? So for me in my life, this has looked like many different things. But for one example, when I was young and choosing what I wanted to study in college, I knew I was into creativity and art and symbolism and metaphor, and I was also into psychology and interested in the way people think and the way people respond to things. So when I was trying to figure out what could I major in, what could I study, I chose advertising because that seemed like a mix of those things. It involved symbolism and, all kinds of creative aspects that were related to how people think. And I thought, okay, this is a respectable adult job. It's a real profession and career. So why don't I choose this? So I majored in advertising. I went to work in advertising when I graduated college and very quickly realized I don't actually care how many Volkswagens are sold in the world. Like I worked for, one of my accounts was Volkswagen when I was in advertising. And I just realized like, this is not it. This is not what is lighting me up. So 2 years into that career, I quit. And this is that metal phase of I let go of this chapter without knowing what was next, which brings me to the next element, which is water. So water, and I'm calling this phase the void. So water is all about dreaming. It's about marinating in possibility. It's about opening up to receive new ideas. It's the most yin, the most feminine element that is not about doing, it's about being. And what I've found in my own life and with many clients oftentimes is that this can be a very uncomfortable phase because we are taught in society to do, to achieve, to produce, to keep going. So to take time to slow down, to take time for nothingness, to not be rushing ahead and aiming, at what you're trying to achieve and check off the box can be very uncomfortable. And what I've also found is that oftentimes we need to make space before the next ideas can come through. So sometimes people don't want to leave something or let something go without having this picture perfect plan of what's next. And I'm not necessarily recommending just like quit your job and, completely enter into the unknown. Like if you have the resources for that, amazing. That could be, a useful thing. And you don't have to do that in order to enter the void. The void is really about creating space in some way, shape, or form for new ideas to come through. So as you're listening to this, really think about what are you experiencing in your life right now. This middle phase, like I said, is about the letting go. It's about identifying what's a no, what no longer is aligned. And now water, the void, is about being receptive to what's ready to drop in next. So in feng shui, metal is all about decluttering. It's about letting go of our physical objects that no longer align. And what sometimes happens with clients when I'm doing decluttering with them is say they declutter a bookshelf and then the bookshelf is empty. There can be this feeling of anxiety of like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at this empty space and there's an immediate desire to fill it. So this is something I see again and again with clients, especially if they take sabbaticals or leave careers or make big changes. There's this immediate automatic response of what can I put back in that space? And oftentimes I invite them to spend a little bit more time with the nothingness, spend a little bit more time with the unknown so that you can really feel into that and have a truer sense of what do you want to fill that space with. And I think about water too, of if you're imagining an ocean and you're feeling frantic and you're like swimming around and the waters are super choppy, you can't see what's underneath the surface. Versus if you can feel calm and the waters can calm, that's when you can see more clearly. The waters become more still and you can see what's underneath. And this also makes me think of my first time learning to scuba dive. This was something that felt very uncomfortable. And, we learned everything. I learned in the Philippines, like in the ocean. So the first time I had the mask on and everything, and I went underneath the water, I had this immediate sensation of panic of like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe down here. Like I'm underwater. Like my brain was freaking out. I was like trying to signal to the guy, like, let me up. And he was like, no, like take a deep breath. You're okay. And it's like when I was able to settle in to that trust and remind myself, okay, I'm safe in this moment. I can breathe. It's okay. Being able to calm my nervous system and slowly sink down allowed me to all of a sudden see what was underneath the surface. And again, the stiller and calmer I was, the more fish came to me, the more turtles and things came to me, the more that I could see what was going on in this watery world when I was able to calm myself. So again, this is something that I see in life. When people enter the void, when they enter into this unknown space that's like in between what was and what will be, there is a feeling of panic, or there can be a feeling of panic that arises of like, oh my gosh, I'm not comfortable here. I'm so used to constantly doing and constantly filling my time. I don't know how to breathe here. And it's about being able to, again, find safety in your own body and reassure yourself in that moment so that you can enjoy this time and be curious about this time and allow yourself to look around in this element and see what you see. So there's all different kinds of practices I do with my clients to help them feel comfortable in this space. And this is what this phase is all about. It's about dreaming. It's about being open to the fish, the ideas, the inspiration that comes to you. And the more you can settle into this space, the more you will discover. And again, for me, a story from my life. So like I said, I worked in advertising for a few years. I realized that that was not what I wanted to do with my life. That actually wasn't aligned with me. I quit. I moved to South Korea to teach English. That was a very kind of like dreamy phase for me of just being open to what I would discover. And I came back and, fast forward, I worked for Lululemon for about 10 years and went through all kinds of phases of these cycles. But what I want to talk about right now is that after 8 or 9 years at Lululemon, I left and I went on a year-long solo road trip. And this was, again, very much of like a void time of I let go of a phase and a chapter of my life that really nourished me for a period of time. And then I was stepping into the unknown. And 3 months into this trip, I remember having like a total breakdown feeling of the void. Like I had just jumped off a cliff and was falling into the abyss of nothingness and was just like, what am I doing? And I feel like I unplugged from this matrix. Again, all this societal programming of what it meant to be successful, what it meant to be an adult, what it meant to be worthy in our society. And I remember being on a retreat with now my teacher, who's been my teacher since that moment 5 years ago, and like sobbing to him, saying like, what am I worth if I'm not earning money the way that I used to? What is my value here? And he, of course, talked to me about like my inherent value, regardless of anything that I am creating or doing or producing in the world. And that's what I find water is too, is like finding that inner knowing, finding that inner value, finding that inner worth, connecting to your inner vital life force energy and knowing that you are enough exactly as you are in this moment. So metal and water are both very much like a letting go energy and a being able to again drop into the depths of our own soul, the depths of our own heart. And when I talk to clients so often, we are talking about goals, we're talking about dreams, we're talking about what they want to create. And first, like I said, it so often involves letting go of what you think you're supposed to be doing, what you think you're supposed to want in life, what you've been taught success means by other people, and beginning to shed all of those layers so you can get in touch with your truth. And the quieter you are with that, the stiller you are with that, the more you're able to access that. So with my clients, it's often when they can finally soften into this space and surrender the need for urgency and surrender the pressure, they're able to open up to receive this energy. And again, there's all kinds of practices we do, thought work practices, emotional practices to navigate all of this. And that's what this is about, being able to open up to receive this guidance from yourself, from your heart, from spirit, and tune into your own desires outside of all of the noise of society and external expectations and all of these things. The third elemental phase is wood, which is about the exploration. Wood is about growth. It's about creativity. It's about planting seeds, curiosity, collaboration, talking. It's when the yang energy is growing, that masculine energy is growing, the light is growing. And this phase is all about, like I said, exploration. It's about trying out new things and seeing what you're interested in, noticing the sparks of curiosity that are calling you forward and giving yourself permission and space to explore them. For me, going on that year-long solo road trip was a huge wood elemental phase for me. I was traveling, I was meeting all kinds of new people. I just started my podcast. I was experimenting with different packages and services in my coaching work, longer term packages. I was consulting with nonprofits. I was doing all different kinds of things. And again, really opening up to trying things out. And again, like with my clients, this is often looks like they're taking new classes. They're taking themselves on artist dates to see what they're into and what sparks their interest. They are, again, exploring creative ideas of what are the dreams that I want to pursue? Do I want to start a business? Do I want to pursue this creative project? Like, what actually matters to me right now? And they're trying out and testing different things. Because again, before knowing exactly what you want in life, you often need to experiment. You need to test things out. You need to see what resonates with you. And I think sometimes in the creative process, I know I've seen this in myself, I've seen this in other people, that if you feel like you put effort into something and then it doesn't turn out the way that you wanted, or you reach kind of like a dead end, or you realize you want to go in a different direction, sometimes that can feel like a failure. It can feel like, oh, I wasted all this time and it went nowhere. Versus what is about being willing to try, being willing to experiment, and being willing to learn, and knowing that nothing is a waste of time. Nothing is a waste of energy, especially if we choose to learn from that process and not judge ourselves or make ourselves wrong for any of it. So this is about planting seeds and seeing what takes root, and experimenting with fertilizing things in different ways and just noticing what you're being called to. And wood, if you can imagine trees growing, it's about also like a higher perspective and being able to see things from different viewpoints and consider alternative possibilities. So it's about expansion, it's about growth, it's about creativity. That's what this phase is all about. And the next element is fire, or the activation. So this is when, like an idea catches fire. It's like a magnifying glass and the light is shining through it in a way that ignites fire. It's about more condensed and focused energy. It's the most yang of all the elements, the most active of all the elements, and the most outward of all of the elements. So this is about honing in on, okay, what is it that actually matters to you? You've experimented with a lot of different things. You've been curious about a lot of different things. What are you feeling called to now to prioritize? And honing in on maybe that one most important goal, or your top 3 goals for this chapter of your life right now, and being willing to focus your energy on that and pour time and intention into that goal and see what happens when you do. So again, this is like if my clients are thinking about, do I want to start a business, or do I want to change direction in my business? Do I want to pursue this or that creative project? This is about the moment of choosing and making your best guess, your best assessment of what you want to pour your energy into, and dedicating yourself to that path. And this is a thing too, that again, like we don't always know what's going to happen. We never know what's going to happen. All we can do in any given moment is make our best assessment of what we feel called to next, and give ourselves fully to that, to the phase that we're in, to the experience that's in front of us right now, to the action that we feel called to take, and be willing to see what happens when we do. So fire is about the courage to do that, the courage to be in action, the courage to move forward, the courage to pursue something and see what happens. So for me too, in my journey of life, one way that fire has shown up is that after my year-long road trip, this very wood phase where I was experimenting and exploring all different kinds of things, initially at the end of that year, I was thinking that I was going to go on another Follow Your Spark inspired trip, this time internationally. And instead, I ended up back in Baltimore. And I decided that what I wanted and needed in that phase of my life was to pour my energy and focus into my business. So I allowed myself to be stationary in Baltimore and really direct my focus to the growth of my business. I had more clarity than ever. I knew what I wanted to be doing. I knew the offerings that I wanted to share. I knew who I wanted to be serving. So I activated my fire and my direction in that. That was what was most important to me in that season of my life. And again, with clients, this is about putting themselves out there. It's about starting the podcast, sharing your work, doing the project you've been wanting to do, making the offer, whatever it is that you've been thinking about, dreaming about, experimenting with, actually putting it out into the world, sharing your ideas, sharing your message, sharing your gifts, sharing yourself in whatever way that you feel called to share. And the fifth element is earth, or the harvest. This is like the container. It's about things coming to life in physical reality. It's about abundance, the harvest, enjoying the fruits of your labor. This is also a time for celebration and acknowledgement and enjoying and really looking at what you've done and saying, wow, I created this. I did this. And so often this is a phase that people want to skip and breeze by and just be on to the next thing. You know, what's the next goal that I want to achieve and accomplish versus really being able to pause and enjoy the here and now. And this is why celebration is such a huge thing that I focus on with clients, because it gives us so much energy. And we human beings have this negativity bias. We're always looking for what's lacking, what's missing, especially if we're very growth-oriented people. That tendency to look for what's next and how far I have to go versus looking at what you have now and what you've already done and being grateful for that. That's going to give you so much more energy, so much more fuel. So, where are you in your life? Are you in a moment of time where you've been going through this whole cycle and you've come to kind of a, I don't want to say completion point, but there's a fruits have grown. Have you paused to acknowledge the fruits that have grown in your own life? This is so important. And again, it gives us so much more energy. It makes us feel good to acknowledge this. And these elements, they go in a cycle, in a circle. So after earth comes metal. So if you are at a point in your life where you have created something, things have come to fruition, again, you're at the peak of maybe a career, then it goes back to metal and asking yourself, okay, what do I want to prune now? What do I want to let go of now? What is no longer in alignment with me in this new chapter of my life as I begin this new season? And they keep going again and again and again. They're not a linear line where you like get to the top of the mountain and then like life is over. It's a continuous cycle of seasons. And this is just like nature. We have winter, spring, summer, fall. They all correlate with these elements. And we human beings are a part of nature. And so often we forget that and we want to just live in like the fire phase all the time or the earth phase all the time. And we forget that there's all of these other phases and they're all valuable. So I really wanted to share this today, like I said, because so many of my clients are in different parts of this cycle and judging themselves for where they're at. And also, I've been talking so much about belief lately. And in this elemental journey, I find that most people struggle to believe in most of the phases, especially metal, water, wood, and fire. The phases where the thing hasn't manifested yet because people want to be able to see it before they believe it. They want to see the evidence or proof that something is going to work out before they pour all of this energy into something. And it can feel very hard to believe something is possible without seeing the evidence ahead of time. And yet, this is not how belief works. This is not how creation works. We have to believe something is possible before we see it. So if we're planting a garden, we have to believe we're capable of planting the garden to even start the process. And metal is like the weeding phase. It's about the pulling out the weeds, like pulling out the grass, whatever we need to make move in order to make space for what it is we want to plant. So in order to do that, again, we have to believe it like, okay, I'm a capable gardener. I'm capable of doing this. I'm capable of creating this. So we go through the process of weeding and letting go. And then we have that empty space. We have to maybe nourish the dirt. We have to create fertile ground. And this is about tending to ourselves. That's why I talk about sustaining your spark. What are the tools in your toolbox that are supporting you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, tending to your own energy, tending to the soil from which you are going to plant things in. And again, you have to believe that this is worthwhile. You have to believe that doing this is going to create something positive in your life. And then when you have the seeds, you need to start imagining, what is it that you might want to plant? How could all of these things come together? What is the garden that you want to grow? And you have to believe that the soil is going to nurture that you are capable of nurturing that. So you plant the seeds. And then again, in order to have them grow, you have to give them what they need. You have to give them water. They need sunlight. They might need fertilizer. They might need more weeding. So we have to tend to them. We have to care for them. And it's like we know this in gardening. We know this in nature. And yet sometimes it's so hard to translate that to ourselves. Because again, like we have goals and dreams. And if we've never done them before, the brain tries to convince you that you can't do it, that it's not possible. And there are reasons for this. And it's not because you're not capable. It's not because you're broken. There are things that the brain does. And this is actually why I created this workshop, Believe, because it's all about exploring what is it that you want to believe is possible for yourself and your life, and what gets in the way of believing. What makes believing in yourself so hard, even though you can believe in nature and you can believe in planting seeds and all of that? Why is it so hard to do for you personally? And then we'll talk about how to actually build belief in a way that you can feel in a tangible, embodied way. And you can tune into and tap into the version of you who has already moved through this whole cycle. They've already gotten to the earth phase. They've already seen the fruits of their labor come to life. We explore what can help you become this person. And when I talk about believe, I am not talking about just like chasing some dream. Because when it comes to, like I said, the elements, this is not about just like getting to the top of the mountain for the sake of it. And I think sometimes when people are thinking about goals, they're thinking about dreams, it's from this place of like external validation of when I get this thing, when I achieve this thing, that's what's going to make me successful. That's what's going to make me feel safe. That's what's going to make me feel happy. That's what's going to fulfill me, this external thing. Versus in nature, in these seasons, the point is not just the fruit. The point is the whole thing, the whole cycle. We're part of life. So when I think about what my life is for, or, what I want to dedicate my life to, growth feels like a really beautiful intention. And to be able to feel like I am living my life to the fullest. I am expressing my unique expression to the fullest. So if I'm an orange tree, I'm not trying to live my life as an apple tree. I'm not trying to live my life as a cucumber plant. I am trying to live my life as the best orange tree I can possibly be. So again, like thinking about you and your goals, believing is about letting go of comparing yourself to other people, letting go of these external measurements of success and finding your own internal measurement of success. Identifying for yourself, what does it look like to you to live a life of no regrets? That's what this is about. This is not about chasing some external goal that you're going to be able to check off the box and just be like, okay, I'm happy for the rest of my life. No, this is about enjoying the full human spectrum of being alive. And that sometimes you're going to have beautiful, happy moments. Sometimes you're going to have challenging moments. Sometimes you're going to experience grief. You're going to experience all the things. And just like in the elemental cycle, no element is better or worse than the other. They're all part of the process. So part of Believe, this workshop that I'm doing, is about learning how to enjoy yourself and enjoy your life in this moment while you are stretching and expanding and imagining what you want to believe in, what you want to direct your energy towards, like the elements, what you want to pour your fire into. How do you want to activate your vital life force energy in this life? So if you want to explore that for yourself, if you want to explore what it is that you want to believe is possible, what gets in the way of believing in that, and what can help you build belief in a really tangible, embodied way, join us for Believe. It's coming up on July 14th. You can go to ginakesbar.com/believe to save your spots. This is going to be a virtual experience, and if you can't join live, you can RSVP. You'll get access to the recording. And I'm calling this an experience because it's not just going to be a mental exercise. Yes, there will be time for journaling, for reflection, for connection and sharing, and you will also be guided through a really powerful visualization, meditation practice, as well as a feng shui practice to help you anchor into this vision and start to imagine what it is that you want to believe is possible and have a physical, tangible reminder of what that dream is and what it means to you and why it matters. So if that calls to you, I hope you join us. And like I said, listen to this conversation. I hope you're reflecting on what phase of the journey are you in? And my biggest invitation is to let go of judgment for yourself of where you're at and know that I could be in a fire phase of my life and you might be in a water phase of your life. And this elemental framework goes so deep. You could be in one element in one area and another element in another area. So I don't want to get too deep with it. And just think about a goal or intention or dream that matters to you right now. What phase of the elemental cycle are you in? All right, my friend. So like I said, if it calls to you, I hope you join us for Believe, and I cannot wait to see you soon. Wishing you all the best.